Okay, we are back with 41 GMC. We're calling Little Mule. So quite a few videos we're going to try to put together. Truth be told, we lost some video on this first part, showing you the full transformation of the engine and what we did to make it look beautiful. But so what we have here, actually, we took out the old plugs. They were just ancient and just full with carbon, and put in some new ones. But what we realized is even the older ones, you'll see some of the burn marks on the headers themselves. And we're trying to find a shorter stemmed spark plug. So we're gonna take these out anyhow because we're gonna remove the headers, we're gonna remove the valve covers, we're gonna blast them, powder coat them, paint them, put them back on. And in the meantime, you can see that burn mark right there under that spark plug that I'm not touching right now. But that's because these headers are pretty tightly fit, and we realized that there's not enough room. Let me get this guy out. But there's not enough room here for us to get a different shape where it won't hit the frame of this 41 GMC. Let's get back in here again. So anyhow, we're going to use the right socket. Get these out. We're going to look for a shorter one. That way they won't hit or get too close to the headers themselves, and we'll get it fixed up here. So the alternator is actually working great, but it's old, it's crusty, and we can get actually a nice alternator that's newer for probably about 65 bucks. In the meantime, as we just kind of spread the budget out, we're going to take this out, clean it. We're going to give it a coat and paint it, but things looking nice. So as you can see, it's there's our gap on our spark plug. Thanks to Duralast, fantastic products helping us out with this project, and many more to come. But we are going to, again, we're trying to search for a shorter stem. So if you come into the same problem with your small block 350 and you've got a tighter engine compartment, you may have to do the same thing. So they do have shorter stem spark plugs out there, and we'll show you when we find them, and they'll eliminate the burns on your headers. But anyhow, we're just gonna do a little bit of rewiring. So as you can see, it's just messy. It's just real messy. So we're gonna clean everything up from the wiring. We're gonna run it along the side of the engine compartment. We're gonna get these caps off. We're gonna wind up power washing and putting a powder coat and painting the top of the block, and we'll get everything looking nice. Right now it's running decent. It just needs a health check. We want to make sure it's in the best condition possible. What is great, if you're new to the small blocks, and actually all blocks have it, but if you're not sure of the firing order, as you can see right there, you have the firing order right there on your block. If you're ever not sure, if you can't YouTube it or search it, look right on the top of the block. Most heads have the firing order on the block itself. So anyhow, we're gonna keep working through getting this nice and pretty. You can see what we did is we used some of the tin foil. So even once we get the valve cover off here, we're going to wind up using some tin foil just to protect areas where once we do paint it, it's gonna seal it. So what we've learned is using tin foil and even saran wrap are two great, simple, inexpensive household products when you've got to seal something. Later on, you'll see as we do some sanding and some painting of areas of the body, we've just used saran wrap. And again, the whole idea is how can we do things in a simple shop in a manner that if someone doesn't have the tools, they don't have the right wrap or the right taping, they could use something that probably is in their kitchen. So anyhow, moving on to the spark plugs there. Those are ones that actually we picked up. We're gonna hold those off to the side eventually and use them for another build. But again, we need to get the right spark plugs. We've got our underneath here, sorry, as I fiddle here with the starter. So this is actually a newer starter that we drop in. The old one was giving us a hard time. And again, for a new starter that you're gonna spend probably about 160 bucks, it's well worth putting one in there that you know is in great condition. But we're also checking the teeth of our flywheel just to make sure that how much it's broke. You can tell there's definitely some wear and tear, but what you're looking for are major chips on the edges of the flywheel itself. And if you have too many of them, there's gonna be times where it's just not gonna catch correctly. And if you have too many of them, it's usually the chips are gonna come from the starter not being in the right position and hitting the flywheel wrong and chipping off the teeth. If they're all worn evenly, that's just for years of wear and tear. So again, we're looking for chips that mean the starter is in a bad position as well as wear and tear. Let's get this thing cleaned up now though. So right now we're doing some wire brushing. We're sucking out any remnants that might be sitting here because we're gonna pull the valve covers off. And when we do that, we want to make sure that the least amount of grum and grime that has been sitting on this poor block for who knows how many years isn't going to fall into where your goodness, I'm losing my words here, but where your valves are. Here we go. Not a big deal if you get dirt and stuff that's going to fall under here. There you go. So you can see it's just nasty. It needs a new gasket. We're going to clean this all out so you can see if there's that much grime that has been on the top of the valve cover. It certainly is going to be in the valves. Here you go, your valve. So you can see it's not terrible, but you can see all that black, very normal, but we want to clean that up as best as we can, you know, before we get this really hitting the road. And again, it's running. See all that? You know, if you have too much of that winds up falling into here, it's just a mess. And you don't want that to get then down into these tiny little holes there. You see that there? And then that's gonna get down into the rest of your block and it becomes a disaster. So just be patient and mindful about cleaning and doing prep before you open up areas where you know you're gonna expose the heart and the lungs of your block. So we're just gonna dig in here a bit and you'll see where the other hole is, where the oil actually seeps down into your block and is pushed back up through this area, keeping everything lubricated. See if I can get you a closer look as we just clean up these areas. And it also is going to give us time to tighten these up too. So any area that we've heard any tapping or some clicking and we realize that it's coming from the top of the valves, we're going to carefully tighten just enough to stop that that clicking or that tapping noise, but not too much to create any tightness. So you can see, look at all that grime. So there's definitely more thorough ways to fully clean this out, but we are going to do it without fully taking the top of the block off. So we're going to use some basic cleaning chemicals and methods to clean this out really well. And then once we put things back together, we'll run a detergent through the block itself. That'll run shooting through here and we'll get all in the springs and areas where we can't easily get into. But we just want to get all of this out of there. Now, our assumption is if it's nasty and sediment here, it's the same thing in the oil pan and the same thing around the rest of the nuts and bolts, the guts, if you will. So eventually, yeah, we're going to drop the pan. We're going to fully clean that out, both internally and clean up the bottom of it. So we figure if we're cleaning up something, we want to get the inside, we want to get the outside. We not only want this to look pretty, but we want it to have a healthy set of parts to it. So let's cover. So again, tinfoil, and I know to some this may seem like a DIY, but yeah, you're right. It's doing in a DIY manner, assuming that if someone can't get their car to a pro shop, which is always the best bet. If you're working on a classic and you have the money to do it, take it to a pro shop. That's why they're in business. That's why they do what they do. And you're going to get back a piece of artwork that's going to last for years. And you want to drive it, you want to enjoy it, but you want it to run well. So we know half what we're doing here. So again, this is just thinking someone finds a great ride like this and they get a good deal on it and they want to do it themselves in their house. Like, how do I start without spending tons of money? Well, obviously here we got the cover off. We're actually on the back of one of our 2 tons that we haven't started yet. That'll probably come in about 8 months. But we just want to keep everything organized is what, my father taught me. Keep things organized. Keep the tools in a spot. Keep your pieces exactly where you know they are so you're not running around trying to find nuts, bolts, valve covers, and of the sort. So we're just doing some further investigation here. Obviously, the starter, we want to try to insulate that hot line red there that was running through along the block. We pulled out the distributor, as you could see. So we're getting everything prepped. So the old distributor we kept. It's in great condition. The points were a little bad. We might replace them, but we're going to drop a new distributor into this. Why? Because unfortunately, this isn't the original inline 6. Previous owner pulled that out. We don't know where it's at, but he put in this small block. So the distributor wasn't the original, from 41. It was just old, but it was running just not as well as we'd like it to. So pulled it out. Be really careful of that area that I just showed you. Don't let anything get in there. You can see right now, see to the left there, I put a little piece of tin foil in there just to make sure that no dirt, nothing gets in there. That is like danger zone where you don't want anything to fall into. So again, simple use of tin foil. It forms around things, so as you can see. So obviously we're gonna get all this electrical, all this spaghetti, that some of the pros call it, organized so that one, we know where it's going to, what it's for, and we can keep it away from the heat of the block. So before it was too much running over top of the block, it looked ugly and it's exposed to heat. So that it's the insulation around your wires is gonna crack. Thanks again for, once again, Duralast. We had AutoZone and a couple shops here support us and give us some fantastic tools, letting them know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So it was great. Good way to get local businesses to support projects like this. So once again, thank you to both AutoZone and the Duralast products that they carry. So anyhow, we don't need to belabor on this much more. We're going to continue just prepping it, covering areas that we know we don't want paint to get into and sealing it, cleaning those areas first, swing around this side here. And then the next step is we're going to wind up doing some prep, some priming, fully pull out the rest of those plugs, get this area real nice and clean. Again, there's another burn mark, you see that? Again, that's because of, not a problem, but that's when you've got tight set headers and a smaller engine compartment and plugs that are too long. All right, wrapping up this prep segment. Next step, we're gonna drop the exhaust and start the restoration of the block.